Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kevin Walker with the Overland Park Chamber of Commerce. Happy to host this forum today and moderate this forum for the candidates for House District 48. Looking forward to hearing a little bit from both Dan and Randy this afternoon. I just want to thank the Johnson County Public Policy Council for coordinating today's forum. The Public Policy Council is a collaborative effort of the 10 chambers of commerce in Johnson County, representing more than 5,000 Johnson County businesses. In addition to hosting forums like this, we also do candidate questionnaires, and we maintain a voter education website, which is www.votejoco.com. So you certainly can go there to get more information about these and the other candidates. Want to introduce Randy Ross and Dan Osman as our two candidates for today. Our format, we're going to start with opening statements. Each will have a minute and a half to give their opening. And then we will move into questions and answers, and then we will conclude with both of them having a closing statement. They drew lots before we started today, and Dan won that, so Dan will be starting first. And so without further ado, we're going to get rolling. And Dan Osman, I'm going to turn it over to you for your opening statement.
All right. Thank you very much. First of all, Kevin and the Overland Park Chamber, as well as all the chambers, thank you so much for hosting. Thank you everybody in the audience that's come out today, and everybody that's viewing online as well. My name is Dan Osman. I'm the representative for District 48. That's in Overland Park. It goes from about 119th Street to 159th Street, and about Schweitzer to Metcalf. I've been in office for the last 3 years now. I'm running for my third term. I grew up here. I grew up in Overland Park and in Prairie Village. I graduated from Shawnee Mission East High School. I went to University of Wisconsin and to KU Law School. My wife and my family, my two daughters, all live here in Overland Park. We moved back here about a decade ago. They go to public school. We love it. It's been fantastic. And I'm going to talk more today about education and how important it is for our district. But I serve on judiciary. I serve as the ranking member on judiciary as an attorney. I serve on commerce, labor, and economic development, as well as several other joint committees that take place on interim. I really enjoyed my time there. I'm looking forward to getting back there so that I can work more on education policies, tax policies, and healthcare. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dan. And Randy, we'll turn to you for your opening comments.
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon, and I want to also thank the Johnson County Public Policy Council and the Overland Park Chamber of Commerce for making this forum available. I'm Randy Ross. I am running to represent Kansas House District 48. Before retiring about 18 months ago, I was Senior Vice President of Managed Market Resources, a healthcare consulting practice. My wife, Patty, and I, we're celebrating our 49th wedding anniversary this year, and we have two children. Our son, Jason Ross, a computer engineer with Intel, lives near Sacramento, California, and our daughter, Dr. Amber Ross, who is a professor at the University of Florida, living in Gainesville with our grandson. Patty and I moved to Johnson County about 10 years after we honeymooned here. We were drawn to beautiful neighborhoods, outstanding school systems, and a moderate cost of living. And folks, you don't find that in every metropolitan area, and it doesn't happen by accident. I've always been interested in state government because it requires you to face and solve real problems, unlike the federal government where you can kick the can down the road. Not so with the state government. I've been active in my local Republican Party as a precinct committee man, and I'm also serving as an officer in my HOA. And just like with an HOA, state government needs to bring neighbors and citizens together to solve local problems. This passion is what drives me to seek this position. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Randy, and we're going to transition right away into our questions. And Randy, this will be starting with you. As a candidate, what are your top 3 policy issues?
Thanks, Kevin. My top 3 policy issues are education, fiscal responsibility, and cybersecurity. Fully funding our educational systems and holding them accountable to their stakeholders, teachers, students, parents, and taxpayers. I mean, that's something that we must commit to. You know, as an example, in the case of teachers as a stakeholder, we need to ensure that they have the necessary resources, not just financial, but also environmental, so that we know they are funded to teach, but also have a focused environment in which to teach. And second, fiscal and effective policies that balance necessary spending with reasonable taxation. We can't keep overburdening our taxpayers. That starts to erode their lifetime of savings from hard work. And finally, cybersecurity is crucial. At the state level, we've had some breaches, and these bad actors have cost us money and also jeopardized data. But this issue extends beyond state government. It can include protecting minors from online pornography, as well as raising awareness to other institutions around the state that have data that might be compromised and sold on the dark web. Thank you.
And Dan, same question for you. What are your top 3 policy issues?
Thank you very much. I would say that my top 3 policy issues include education, economic growth, and healthcare. So let me break those down a little bit. On education, the person that comes back into office is going to have to work to revamp the funding formula for education. I've spent 6 years on a school board. I'm endorsed by the KNEA, by Gaymont for Kansas Schools, as well as Stand Up Blue Valley. They know that I am in touch with making sure that we are fully funding our schools and special education. If we don't, it could mean millions of dollars a deficit for the Blue Valley School District, which is not something I want. So you need somebody up there that wants to fight for that. For economic growth, I'm going to continue to serve on commerce, labor, and economic development. We're going to be working, we've worked already on a number of workforce issues. I want to tackle childcare because childcare is a workforce-related issue. And if somebody has 2 kids, they need to make a tough decision. Do I continue to work and send my kid to childcare or kids to childcare, or do I go back and stay out of the workforce? And that is not a question that people should be having. We need to tackle that up in the state. Healthcare as well is another huge one. Dealing with prescription drug medications and taxation over that, dealing with Medicaid and expansion of Medicaid. We are one of only 9 states that have an expanded Medicaid, which is going to help every single Kansan across the board, man, woman, and child. I want to work on all of this next term.
Thank you both. We're going to turn our attention to tax policy, everybody's favorite issue. Dan, you'll go first with this one. Being as specific as you can, what are your views on state tax policy?
You know, I think that the tax plan that we passed this last term was really good. Not perfect, really good. I think that we could have done better. So let me break it down. We actually helped to decrease over the, it was about a $2.4 billion tax package. We managed to decrease your income taxes. We eliminated Social Security taxes for the state of Kansas. And we also reduced property taxes. But we could have gone further. I had 3 different bills that I co-sponsored this last year with about 30 to 35 legislators that would have eliminated significantly residential property taxes. 2 of them didn't even get hearings. None of them made it out of committee. We need to have robust discussion on that in the state of Kansas. The other issue is about things like prescription drug medication, feminine hygiene products. Those are tax policies for individuals that they shouldn't be charged for, and I want to try to work on that. Veterans benefits, especially on residential property taxes. Do you know that we were within a single voice vote of significantly improving veterans' property taxes in the state of Kansas for those that are 100% disabled, and yet it got killed from the final bill? I'd like to go back and revisit that and make sure that that passes this next year. Thank you.
Randy, same question for you regarding state tax policy. What are your thoughts, and please be as specific as you can.
Sure. Fair and effective fiscal policies are crucial to balancing spending and taxation. Government must have sufficient resources to fulfill its responsibilities, but must carefully weigh that against the financial burden it may place on citizens. Excessive taxation can obstruct individuals from fully enjoying the rewards of their hard work and lifetime of labor. Tax policy is driven by state spending and the budget development process. We need improvements in how our state legislature plays an equal role in overseeing development of budgets. Some have said that it's been more of a tradition in recent years that you kind of accept the governor's budget. Well, some traditions need to be retired. A joint House-Senate committee recently met in August and will meet again for a second time in October. And they are going to review and recommend how the state manages its budget process and how the legislature should be a part of that. I attended the first meeting and I was encouraged by what I saw. They're taking a look at how we got to the problem we have today and how are other states resolving that. But now is when the real work begins in determining how effectively we can do things different for better results. Stay tuned.
Okay, we will go to our third question. We'll start with Randy on this one. Randy, what are your views on K through 12 education funding and accessibility of our schools?
Providing adequate funding and accessibility in K through 12 education is absolutely essential for creating equal opportunities and preparing our children for the future. But it's not just about throwing money at the issue. It's about ensuring that every dollar spent actually makes a difference in the classroom. The legislature must not only allocate necessary resources, but also be accountable for how those resources are utilized. But funding alone won't fix everything. We need to actively engage with the people who understand education best. Remember those stakeholders I talked about, teachers, students, parents, and taxpayers? Their input's critical. They're the ones on the front lines experiencing the challenge and the opportunities. By working together with those local education stakeholders, we can create schools that don't just meet academic standards, but also foster overall growth and development of students, whether they're in urban centers or rural communities. No child should be left behind due to their economic situation or where they live. This isn't just about education, it's about the future of Kansas. We want to produce the next generation of well-educated leaders who are equipped to seize the opportunities that lie ahead and drive our state forward. Thank you.
Dan, same question for you regarding education.
I think that people come to Kansas for really good schools, and I think that people come to Blue Valley for exceptional schools, and I want to continue to keep it that way. As I said in my opening, a couple of things. One, I'm endorsed by the Kansas National Education Association, Game On for Kansas Schools, and Stand Up Blue Valley. I've spent 6 years on a school board as well, and I've got 2 lovely girls that are in public school right now. I'm invested in making sure that it's fully funded for them and for everyone else. When we look at what fully funded is, that is something that the state legislature next year is going to have to make a determination. What actually means fully funded? What does it mean to have fully funding of special education? And if you get that answer wrong, it's going to cost. Blue Valley alone spends about $18 million on special education every year. Johnson County as a whole spends around $85 million every year. And if we have legislators up there that don't fully fund the formula and don't fight for what is best for education in Johnson County, in Kansas as a whole, every single child is going to lose out, and our future is going to lose out, and that's what I'm back up there to fight for.
We'll go to our next topic and start with Dan on this one. What types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
So, thank you. So, as an attorney, I've worked with statutory agencies across Kansas and Missouri on redevelopment projects, economic incentive projects, and all of them, when they're implemented properly, they can encourage job growth. Business development, it can remain a long-term net positive to the taxpayer, and it's one of the reasons that I supported the Star Bond project for the professional sports teams that was created was because I was able to look at it and understand the ramifications of what it would take for the businesses to come over, for potentially the Chiefs and the Royals to come over, and just what the long-term impact is going to be economically. It's also why I serve on the Commerce Committee. I understand what it's going to take to bring business to Kansas, and I understand working with the governor and lieutenant governor on bringing business to Kansas. Kansas as a whole has had a golden shovel multiple years in a row. What that means is that we've had more economic development per capita than basically any other state in the nation, and I want to keep it that way. So it's a collaboration where we can make sure that every side prevails, and that's generally what I want to do, is find ways to work with business interests, to work with both parties to make sure that we can actually bring business into Kansas. We can also help with workforce-related issues for childcare, which we are absolutely going to be discussing next term in Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development.
Randy, same question to you.
Thank you. Economic development policies are crucial for driving job growth and business expansion in Kansas, but every project must be measured by one key factor. Are we creating jobs and growth cost effectively? We need targeted tax incentives and grants that make Kansas the best place for business, not just Johnson County, but the entire state. And that's the responsibility of the legislature, to think statewide as well as our own local areas that we represent. Some businesses will relocate here or elsewhere in Kansas. Some will expand, and some thinking about leaving the state will stay. But infrastructure is another critical piece. We also have to upgrade transportation networks, expand broadband, enhance utility services. We can build a business-friendly environment that benefits urban and rural areas. Without these investments, business and the jobs they create won't flourish. And we can't stop there. Workforce development is key. We must invest in education and training so that our workers are equipped for the jobs of today and tomorrow. Now, that can be, encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship, setting up startup incubators that we already have at the KU Innovation Park and Nexus down in Wichita. But again, a culture of innovation is about creating the future right here across the state of Kansas.
Randy, this next question will start with you, and we're pretty much on the same topic of economic development, but I want to get a little more tailored regarding workforce. So what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, Kevin, it's going to require a multifaceted approach. Now, first, we must enhance and expand our workforce skills to attract targeted employers, the ones that we've talked about already. But current state programs, and we have them, such as the Kansas Industrial Training Program and Kansas Industrial Retraining, need to remain up to date to ensure that we are flexible and that we are responsive to specific needs. We need also to be sure that our K through 12 and post-secondary education systems provide foundational education as well as career-focused pathways. And finally, we must ensure that our communities are desirable places to live for current and future Kansans. This will attract employers, create jobs for today and provide opportunities for tomorrow.
Dan, same question for you. What would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, I think it comes down to three things: education, education, and education. I mean, when we have strong public schools, we have families that want to move into the district. And when we have families that move in, we have businesses that move in. And those businesses then do well. It allows the communities to grow. Long term, I think education provides resources and opportunities for the next generation. And our children get the necessary training and skills that allow them to get the jobs in our community that will support the next generation. Let me give you an example. One of the things that I worked on our first term was the Panasonic plant that should go online in January of next year. It's scheduled to have upwards of 4,000 jobs associated directly with it, and more jobs along with it, ancillary to it. To do that, you need engineers, lots and lots of engineers. How do you get them? You have a pipeline, and I've been working with the Panasonic plant to make sure that they're working with Johnson County Community College, Kansas City Community College, as well as the individual school districts to start robust STEM training as well as other things, because you can't turn out 4,000 engineers overnight. So you need to build that up and make sure that takes place. And it's a collaboration. Education and business help the community.
Okay, Dan, well, this will start with you, and you both mentioned the importance of education in our workforce development efforts. So what are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education in our state?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, post-secondary education is just as important as primary education. We need to ensure that it's accessible to all Kansans. So that starts with fully funding our budget year over year. We had a $3 billion budget surplus the last 2 years. And I appreciate that we may not have that every single time, but we need to be able to adequately utilize that towards education funding and post-secondary education funding. It means taking our budget surplus, carving out areas of tuition reimbursement and state-level scholarships, as well as additional training programs. So we had, about 2 years ago, we passed the Kansas Promise Scholarship Act. And I'd love to be able to make that more robust, that gets more people in to post-secondary education to have skill training like HVAC repair and the like, and being able to specifically target them and keep them working and living in the state of Kansas is key. So having more programs like that where we allow for tuition reimbursement or tuition deduction while keeping Kansans here in Kansas is going to be what we need to do to help grow our community and our future.
Randy, same question for you.
Thank you. I recognize the burden of post-secondary education costs. I put myself through college. State appropriations are crucial alongside tuition and fees, and keeping education affordable is vital as funding cuts increase tuition. So much of what we have talked about so far has dealt with a quality educational system and a well-educated populace. These are all pieces of the same puzzle. Kansas has a robust system of universities and colleges, consistently funding education, including tuition reimbursement and scholarships. It's critical to education today and to the tomorrow of our state. Programs like the Kansas Promise Scholarship, that initiative that helps Kansas residents pursue education and training in high-demand fields, are essential for a skilled workforce. Supporting students in making informed post-secondary decisions will lead to more productive career choices, careers with real opportunity, so that students don't leave college with a degree that can't fund the payments on their student loans. And additionally, ensuring affordable post-secondary education systems are key to helping students achieve the careers that they aspire to. By doing this, we not only provide direction to students about their future, but we continue to signal to prospective Kansas business that we have a commitment to a robust and educated workforce.
We're going to transition to healthcare policy for a second, and Randy, you'll start with this one. What are your views on healthcare policy and specifically Medicaid expansion?
Thank you. Affordable health care is essential for all patients. Pharmaceuticals, accounting for about 10 to 25% of healthcare spending, can be effective but costly. Pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, influence medication choices, costs, and how patients are supported. Kansas needs to look into regulating PBMs to ensure fair pricing and better access. Since the primary election forum here, I've met with leadership of the Kansas Pharmacists Association regarding their efforts to regulate PBMs, and have discussed what other states are bellwethers in this effort, and I look forward to following up with them. It's crucial to discuss how to protect the uncovered Medicaid population to improve their health, because healthier populations are less costly to care for. So leaving this group without coverage is not viable and does not demonstrate compassion. Earlier this year, I sat through hearings in Topeka about expanding Medicaid. I listened to speakers. And one thing that I did not hear in Topeka is I found nobody talking about how expanding Medicaid has actually improved the health status of the intended population. It may be there, but we aren't doing anything to track it. And I've talked with others who say they know of studies that are published, and I haven't found them, and I keep looking, because if expanding Medicaid works, then we need to do it. But if it doesn't make people healthier, then we need to find something else that helps this population.
And Dan, what are your thoughts on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion specifically?
Yeah. So I consider Medicaid expansion to be the single biggest issue that's facing the Kansas legislature and Kansas as a whole, that the legislature could be dealing with and fails to and refuses to year after year. And it's not a partisan issue. It's not a Republican or Democratic issue. 41 states have passed Medicaid expansion, Republican and Democrat controlled alike, and Kansas refuses to do so. And you could look at it from helping people, from helping people's perspective, anywhere between 150,000 to, at this point, I've now seen numbers as of today, about 240,000 Kansans without health insurance that would be covered under this gap, and we're not dealing with that. We're also, by Medicaid expansion itself, will also help rural hospitals from closing in the state of Kansas. So we can look at it from the question of how do we help people? We can also look at it from a fiscal conservative perspective. There have been $7 to $8 billion of your tax money that has gone out of the state from the federal government, not back into the state of Kansas. It's not because of federal grants. It will not cost the state of Kansas any amount of money to expand Medicaid, because it's being covered under reimbursement for the next 8 years. It makes fiscal sense, it makes moral sense, we need to pass it.
We're going to go to our next topic on foreign land ownership, and Dan, you'll start with this one. So there's been a lot of discussion about foreign land ownership and purchasing equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns against free enterprise and private property rights?
Yeah. So I worked on this in the Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development Committee. And there were a number of different bills that went through there. One of them was about drones being purchased and about where it's manufactured, where the parts came from. And I supported a ban on those pieces of drone work that came from countries of concern, because I felt that the solution to that problem was much easier to be implemented. As far as land ownership goes, that is a much more complex issue. So we talk about, there's the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States, that's CFIUS. It already has policies and procedures in place for just this type of thing. And in commerce, we actually listened to them. We spent precious time trying to reinvent the wheel. For instance, CFIUS has a policy in place that requires 1 mile radius around military installations to say there's no foreign ownership. That makes sense. Instead, we implemented a policy of 100-mile radius, which effectively means the entire state of Kansas is now off limits for this. It doesn't make sense, especially when you consider that there's been no testimony that says that this is a problem. I don't want governments coming in and owning land, but there's been testimony that says this is not occurring in the state of Kansas, and we didn't listen to that and went ahead. That's not how we enact policy.
Randy, this is the same question to you. It's a long one. If you want me to repeat it, I'm happy to.
No, I've seen it a couple of times, Kevin, but thank you. Balancing national security with free enterprise and private property rights means finding an appropriate way to keep our country safe without impeding business and without taking away people's rights to their own property. We need careful checks, rules, and ongoing monitoring in order to make sure that we're protecting important sites and technologies while accommodating economic growth. This involves reviewing foreign investments, setting clear regulations, and staying alert. At the end of the day, I don't want intelligence gathering platforms, from a hostile foreign nation floating over our country in a balloon. And I sure don't want those same platforms sitting on Kansas farmland and tracking military installations. And to me, that seems like common sense.
Well, thank you both. We're transitioning to our last question. Randy, this will start with you. We'll finish with Dan. How control over decision-making is divided among the state legislature and local governments, including our school boards. On issues such as taxation, economic development, and education, it's been a matter of a lot of debate. So what are your views on local control and how we divide that decision-making authority?
Well, the state legislature and local government bodies need to remember you're all serving the same population. So collaboration through regular meetings and communications only makes sense. Joint planning and transparency ensure effective governance and representing and addressing community needs. The question is, how are we addressing these issues today? How often do county commissioners, city council representatives, and state legislatures get together to discuss issues that impact the citizens that all three elected bodies serve? I might be missing the announcements about public meetings to this type of group session, or the news reports about private sessions. But either it's not happening or it's not happening enough. Regardless of party affiliation, we all represent the same people. We need to act like it.
Dan, same question to you.
I don't believe that we should be micromanaging, and I believe in local control. To that effect, we are in the state legislature every year for approximately 90 days. There's a lot of issues that we need to tackle at the legislature, and we have a finite amount of time to do it. And when we deal with things that other elected officials are already elected to deal with, we're spinning our wheels and we're wasting our time. We need to deal with state level issues. And I say that to constituents as well as my fellow legislators when we deal with school policy issues that should be dealt with at the state school board or individual school boards. When we deal with county level issues that should be dealt with elected officials as a county commission. We need to collaborate, we need to work together, but not be dictatorial as far as how we go about implementing policy. I have very good relations with the school boards and with the county commissions, and they know that if there are issues that are being dealt with at the state level, they can contact me. We have good collaboration together, but they also know I'm not trying to override their duly elected position, because we have other things we need to be tackling up there.
Well, I want to thank you both for taking a little bit of time to share your thoughts on some of these important issues. We're going to turn to our closing comments, and just want to remind you, you each have 1.5 minutes for your closing thoughts. Dan, we're going to start with you, and then we'll wrap up with Randy.
Thank you. Thank you again very much for hosting this, and for everybody that's come out and is viewing online. So I'm an attorney with 2 decades of experience working with the government and working with both parties to solve problems. And I can guarantee that the votes that I take are for the betterment of my district and the people that I serve, and not based on what's best for my party. I know one of the great things is that I have never, ever once in 3 years of being up in the legislature had somebody say to me, "You must vote this way because my party is telling you that you need to vote this way." It is always, always, always vote your district, which allows me that freedom to go out and talk with my constituents and actually effectively represent them. And that's what I'm going to continue to do if I get back in 2025 and beyond. I really enjoyed my time up there. There's so much more that I want to do, and I'm excited to get back to work in January of next year. Thank you very much. My name is Dan Osman. I'm the current representative for District 48, and if you need any more information, you're welcome to reach out to me at osmanforkansas@gmail.com or danforcan@danforcan.com. Thank you very much for your time.
Randy, your turn.
Thank you, Kevin. And I want to thank again the Johnson County Public Policy Council and the Overland Park Chamber for making this available. And thank everybody who is here today as well as watching the video online. My background is a strategic planning consultant, and that means that working with clients, I've had to navigate on the same team diverse opinions and significant differences. And it's all about finding common ground. That's my background. And so I will be utilizing that next January in the Kansas legislature. But here's something else. When we move House District 48 to the majority side of the aisle, this presents a powerful opportunity for our district, our community. Because when you're in the majority, you have direct access to legislative leadership. The leadership that sets the legislative agenda and determines which bills get prioritized. So this means our district's needs and voices will have a direct line. This means that, we will have a direct line to support people who are pushing for Medicaid expansion, who are talking about fully funding schools and keeping that funding going. So we will have the direct line to leadership. Some may be frustrated, but being in the majority does allow us opportunities to be heard. And District 48 will have a louder voice, more influence, and a stronger position, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Well, Dan and Randy, I want to thank both of you for spending a little time with us, and I especially want to thank both of you for your willingness to serve the people of Kansas. It's not an easy job, and we always appreciate people that are willing to put their name on the ballot and make their case. So best of luck to both of you. I want to thank the audience that was here today and remind everyone that a recording of today's forum will be posted on our website, votejoco.com. And not only will a recording of this race, but all of the contested races that are in Johnson County will have recordings on the same website as they occur. Just a quick reminder, voter registration ends on Tuesday, October 15th, so make sure you get registered. Advance voting begins on Saturday, October 19th, and last but not least, Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th, so please get out and exercise your right to vote. With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Thanks.